The corner of Michigan and Trumbull. For more than 100 years, the home of professional baseball in Detroit.
And there it goes!
Tiger Stadium for me was a place that involved more memories for more people than just about any other place in Michigan.
A love of a team for a city can bind them together. So this is part of the religious force that's irrepressible in baseball.
I remember in '84 when we won the World Series, the thing that I thought was the neatest about it was for a day, the city of Detroit was happy and we were united.
But then not just the team, the history that comes behind that team.
Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, you know, all the guys that we read about in Cooperstown have played on this field at one time or another.
My dad brought me to a lot of baseball games here. I mean, he died when I was 11, and my recollections of going places with my father were to the 7-Eleven where he worked, to the racetrack where he died, and to Tiger Stadium where we came more often probably than any place else.
And you know, I connect, I think, with the spirit of my father by being here, and the spirit of other guys who were like my father, Ernie Harwell and Sparky Anderson in particular. And I think all those guys are really proud of us and what we're doing here.
The Tigers played their last game at the corner in 1999.
So you get a place like Tiger Stadium, which was there for more than 100 years. And you have that connection, and it just goes down deep.
And I didn't come down when they were demolishing it either, even though I drove to Chicago and I filmed them tearing down Comiskey Park. But yeah, I just couldn't do it here. Yeah, I just couldn't do it here. It's kind of like watching a good friend being axed to death.
Today, all that is left is the baseball diamond and the flagpole that stood in play in center field.
But at least part of it should have been kept. You can't just walk away from this location as if you never were here, as if it was never part of your history.
But the Tigers wanted nothing to do with the old stadium, and city leaders rejected numerous proposals to save it. With no official support, no permission, and no funding, a small group of devoted fans has decided to take matters into their own hands.
We found some pictures of the 1928 Navin Field grounds crew, and I thought it was interesting the similarities between their crew and ours. We have a passion for this field just like the grounds crew did in 1928.
They call themselves the Navin Field Grounds Crew, led by Tom Derry and drawn to the corner as if by some unseen force. They spend their Sundays taking care of the field so people can enjoy this historic site.
It's neat. It's a great part of the Tigers' history, the city of Detroit's history.
Amazing, really. I mean, what a neat thing they're doing. Because that lot could have just become overgrown, and then people would have driven by it and said, that's where they used to play baseball.
The Navin Field Ground Crew are the most dedicated, most loyal people I've ever met at anything.
I believe there is an irrepressible urge in people to preserve memory. You cannot keep down this urge for people to memorialize the very place that they love.
And even without the Tigers, people still come. They come to share memories. They come to play. They come from all over the world. Is this truly sacred ground? Can baseball touch our very souls? And why are people so devoted to preserving history? In a city facing negative headlines for high crime rates, political corruption, and a serious financial crisis, this sounds like a true feel-good story for Detroit. But city officials have not embraced this grassroots preservation effort. These hardworking volunteers perform this labor of love under the constant threat of arrest. The city sees it as trespassing, but they view the field as home. The Navin Field Grounds Crew is stealing home. One of the greatest moments in baseball history was in the 1955 World Series, when Jackie Robinson stole home against the New York Yankees. Stealing home is one of the hardest things to do in all of baseball. A runner 90 feet away has to be faster than a ball thrown from 60 feet 6 inches. It sounds impossible. In fact, it's rarely even attempted. Stealing home plate requires concentration, speed, and perfect timing. It's not as rare as a no-hitter or a triple play, but for anyone who pulls it off, it's definitely worth writing home about. Stealing home is one of the rarest and most difficult feats in all of baseball. But on opening day in 1912, Ty Cobb scored the Tigers' first ever run at Navin Field by stealing home. If Ty Cobb could do it for the Tigers 100 years ago, perhaps the Navin Field grounds crew can steal this baseball home for the people of Detroit today. It won't be easy, but they're determined to either do it or get thrown out trying.
I don't know if these are going to work, but we're desperate to keep the Canadian geese away. So we picked up some fake owls from Home Depot. We've had a real problem this last year with Canadian geese. They're all over the field, and they're destroying the field. So hopefully these might keep them away. We'll give them a try, see how they work. If they don't, then we'll try something new. But the geese are a real problem in this field.
Tom, how many bags of soil do you bring every week?
Well, this is the first time I've brought some because we just noticed this problem has happened over the winter, the settling here. So I just brought this out today, so I need to get some. Look, police are coming on the field.
Okay, where are they?
They're coming to the field.
All right.
They might kick us off.
It's their first day on the field this season. They've only been there a few minutes when Tom spots the police car pulling onto the field. Would they be arrested? Would this be the end of the grounds crew?
If the news media got keep aware that people that come in here, that might make a difference. I don't know. But as of right now, I've got to tell you to leave.
Okay.
Can I see your ID, sir?
Yeah, we'll get our stuff and take off. We don't want to cause any trouble either.
I
but
appreciate that. And I
yeah.
know make it look better. I mean,
yeah, I know
not
that's
hurt anything.
Right.
I don't see it here. I'm just.
All right, well, I'll tell everybody to grab our stuff and we'll go.
Okay. All right, sir. Give me your name.
So that police officer suggested that leasing the.
Yeah, he said, why don't you try leasing it for $1 for a year? So.
Oh, really?
And it was
Did
nice.
he, I wonder who we have to contact to do that. So.
To me, who knows if the cop is really knows what's going on
Right.
as far as property ownership.
Right.
So, but you know, hey, a buck, I can shell that out right now.
We got to find out who we have to contact to do that. Because so let's try that. See if that works.
Yeah, I think we should get an attorney to contact the city.
Yeah, let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's try something.
Something.
We'll figure it out. We have a few days here.
We cannot be denied.
City officials may not want them here, but this is Detroit. It's an edgy, vibrant place. A place where people are doing some amazing things and making their own opportunities. And sometimes they don't wait for permission. Some artists and community activists built a mini golf course on a vacant lot near the most emblematic icon of Detroit's urban decay, the abandoned train depot. Artist Tyree Guyton got tired of looking at deterioration in the neighborhood where he grew up, so he started decorating abandoned houses with paint and discarded junk items. Now the Heidelberg project covers 2 city blocks. The city didn't like it at first, but now it's a world-renowned work of art drawing tourists from all over. When a community activist wanted to take over some vacant lots and plant a garden, he didn't wait for permission. He just took action. Now the Georgia Street Community Garden is a celebrated piece of Detroit. Sometimes it takes a grassroots effort to bring life back to a community. That's exactly what the grounds crew is trying to do.
You know what? This is the D. The D is a unique place, and you make energy happen here. This is one of the greatest places in the world to live. Things like this happen every day here. You got to get involved and Tiger Stadium's awesome. Who wouldn't want to be here?
That spot is either where Detroit dies or where it's reborn. And if it's reborn, it's because of people like the people who have saved that field, who have said, I don't care what the law says, I don't care what the leaders say, I know right from wrong, and I'm going to go down there and cut a hole in the fence and fix up this field.
It doesn't take long. The trash accumulates really quickly. The side of the field seems to get the most garbage. Everything just blows right against the fence here. So it pretty much needs to be cleaned every week.
It's early in the season, and optimism abounds, both for the Tigers and for the Navin Field grounds crew. The city's Planning and Development Department has agreed to meet with them and several other community and business leaders to talk about finding a way to let them maintain the field legally. The meeting will include a representative from the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, the nonprofit quasi-governmental agency that actually owns the field.
Yeah, as I was saying, George Jackson, who is, probably the sole man responsible for the site as president of the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation. After the stadium was torn down in 2009, Jackson went on public television and said the thing was blight. The city and the city decided it had to go, and they tore it down because, as Jackson said, it was blight. Well, fast forward to the following summer, the stadium is gone, but in its place is 9 acres of garbage and weeds 7 and 8 feet tall. Now, if that's not blight, I don't know what is.
Actually, if we hadn't been coming down here last year, you wouldn't even be able to see on the field at all. There were weeds between 6 and 8 feet high that went all the way around the park where the stands used to be. So if we hadn't cut down those weeds, you wouldn't be able to even see out on the field to see what's out there.
A spokesman for the public relations firm that represents the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation said the DEGC would not comment or be interviewed for this film. The spokesman did say, however, that what the Navin Field grounds crew is doing is not a feel-good story. Instead, he said these hardworking, passionate citizens may be causing actual harm to the city by deterring potential investors who may want to redevelop this prime real estate.
I really don't know what's going to happen here, but in the meantime, we just keep cleaning up the field and hoping to keep it usable for something good to come.
Right now, it's just getting access to go on the field so we can cut the grass and fix up the field, and so people can play baseball and we have a clean park that everybody can enjoy.
Sometimes they look the other way, sometimes they kick us off. It depends on which way the wind's blowing. If it's blowing out to left field like it is today, we might be all right.
The meeting with the city did not bring a resolution, but city officials did promise to meet again in 2 weeks. Afterward, Joe and Dave talked strategy at Lafayette, Coney Island.
Having the community there, I think that was key in making sure that this becomes a priority for the city to actually address and deal with.
The stadium's gone, we accept that, and our game now is to try to maintain the site, and we want to do it in cooperation with the city, not in defiance of this.
It's a partnership.
The Navin Field grounds crew got some more good news the next week. That's when the latest issue of ESPN the magazine hit newsstands, with an article about what they're doing at the corner.
On one hand, part of me feels like this is the place where Detroit finally died, right? That they would do this to Tiger Stadium, that they would do this to this site, that they would let it become a garbage dump. I mean, for me, a large part of me said, that's it. My hometown is dead to me. On the flip side of those emotions, the thing that was so strong for me was I felt the complete opposite of that when I saw what fans had done to save the site.
At the site of Old Tiger Stadium, there's nothing left but a bunch of weeds. And we're here by choice.
The next meeting with the city is 2 weeks away. In the meantime, there's plenty of work to do at the corner.
We'd really like to get in there and pick up the trash on the inside, but I gave him my word the other day that we'll just work the perimeter for now. And besides, the perimeter's been neglected, so we'll just work outside the fence until we reconvene on May 12th. Can't keep everybody off the field, as you can see.
Well, almost everybody.
It's an unsanctioned
Minor league camp, I think.
Minor league camp, huh?
The threat of police action is always looming.
I see a turn signal. This can't be good. Especially
Two of them. There's two of them down there.
Okay, yeah, I see the other one at the waiting at the light. Let's see what the hell's going on. What the hell happens here?
Nothing. Must be some real crime in the city. Two cops just drove past.
Yeah, and I almost would have thought for sure he saw these two guys out there. I'm waiting for them to come up and start causing some sort of you know? They both kept going.
I don't know how you're feeling. I feel like I ought to accomplish a little bit more.
We picked up all the trash today.
What should I do?
Except that little bit where we can't get in the water.
I'll go get that out of the water. I got my boots. All right, I'm going in. I'm wading in. I suppose if I just waited till next Sunday, this puddle wouldn't even be here.
Might have been able to reach there with a rake, by the way, in retrospect.
I suppose so. But where am I going to find a rake around here?
You want me to throw you one?
I might need a life preserver.
So what is so special about this site? This major league ballpark turned garbage dump that keeps people coming back. Are they trying to save a small piece of Detroit? Or are they touching something much deeper? What is it that makes people want to go home again?
Well, the love starts for me with, my dad bringing me to ball games here at this place. As a little kid, my earliest memories of looking at this field and walking out into the stands.
It's my dad probably that keeps me coming back here more than anything else. It's history and the memory of my father.
Connecting with the spirit of his father through baseball, a theme that has inspired numerous movies and books about the sport.
After the family home was demolished in the 1970s, the ballpark became the last place I could go to connect with these memories of my grandfather, this man I never knew, man I knew only through family stories. He had come to America in the early 1900s from Poland. He didn't know anything about baseball, but he knew that if he were going to assimilate in American society, he had to learn about the sport. So he started going to games at what was then Navin Field. And he saw Ty Cobb play and some of the greats who would come later on. And in time, he started to take his sons, including my father. And decades on, my father took my brother and me to the games, and I took my sons.
Because my dad took me to that ballpark, and his dad took him, and his dad took him. So my great-grandfather, Charlemagne Cousineau, took my grandfather, Horace Cousineau, to see Ty Cobb play against Babe Ruth.
So there have been four generations of our family who've shared the sport there. And that accounts for a lot of the affection we feel for the place and a lot of the affection that other people feel for the place.
All of this together contributes to what the great poet Robert Bly calls the shoulder-to-shoulder relationship that is so important for men, for fathers and sons. Women tend to speak face-to-face, facing each other for intimacy. That's a certain intimacy with women. But men have worked side by side for millennia. And when we go to baseball games together, this, I feel, is one of the deep, deep attractions and source of bonding.
When you go to a ball game, you end up talking to the person next to you. You end up sharing memories. You end up connecting on a deeper level than you do at other sports. And that's been happening for decades. It's been happening for generations.
It's in those moments when you forge friendships. It's in those moments when you actually bond with your father. Maybe the only time you bond with your father.
It's 41 degrees, it's raining outside. The Tiger game was postponed today, but it's a good day to pick up garbage outside the old ball field.
Well, we were scheduled to meet with the city's planning and development department again on Thursday.
I got a call about a half an hour before I was supposed to be there and said that they'd postpone the meeting for another 2 weeks.
I don't know, I can only guess like anybody else, but I don't think we'll get permission to go on the field. I think they're just stalling here. So, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get out there and continue the work that we started last year.
The city's delay in negotiations may have dampened their spirits, but it did not diminish their resolve.
Well, we got a nice day here today. The rain has stopped. We have an opportunity to cut the grass. It's really growing fast, and I understand some of the people in a group are having talks with the city, and that's great, but the grass is really growing high, and we got to get this under control. It's going to get really ugly like it did last year, so we got to try to cut something today. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
Cool. So what do you think, Dave?
I challenged Tom Derry to an all-grudge cage match, a steel cage death match. I'm just going to stay off the field today for the time being. I told the city in our last meeting that I would honor their wishes and stay off the field till further notice. We're scheduled to meet on Wednesday, today's Sunday, so I'll just stick out here today. But I certainly don't begrudge Tom for what he's doing. To trespass or not to trespass. I believe, like Domino's Pizza, the police will be here today in under 30 minutes.
There is much work to be done. The grass is tall and the dandelions are taller. Most of the crew is here today.
Final opening game and the final game ever.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. In fact, I got a commemorative ball from that last game. 9/27/99.
No one can understand why the city would want Tom and the grounds crew to leave.
He fights it a lot coming in here. They want to block him from even coming in. Yet they won't let him come in and clean up the field, but they'll let people in to play on the field. Well, they wouldn't be able to play on the field if we didn't do this. So
Here we go, man. Is this a cop or a city official?
good.
I'm thinking it is. Yep, I'll bet you it is. I think that's the city, you guys. I'd bet money on it. Yeah, it is. It is, dude. I'll go talk to him. I thought you were from the city and I was coming to talk to you to say, hey man, we're just trying to cut the grass and make it playable for anybody who wants. You know, our whole goal is to make it so people can bring their kids out here. But they did kick us out of here a few Sundays ago.
What do they say?
They say you're trespassing. And instead of, you know, facing some kind of ticket or something, we just politely leave. He said that he just wanted to bring his kid out here. He used to live on Leverett Street. Yeah, it was a Detroit cop. And he says, I want to bring my kid out here and throw the ball around. I said, cool, man, when you get off work. Yeah. He was a cop, but he wasn't here to, he wasn't here to bust our chops. Yeah, he wanted to bring his kid out here.
So the police would not hinder them. And for the Navin Field grounds crew, it was a victory, at least for today. If the average size of a residential lawn in the United States is 1/5 of an acre, this site would hold about 48 yards. That's a lot of mowing. It's not that they love doing yard work on their day off, it's that they love the site.
There is much, much more time spent on this yard than there is at home. And I'm not talking that our backyard's a complete disaster, but God love him. He takes care of this yard.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
It takes a minute, you know?
I'm amazed by how much is already done. It's only been a little while, you know?
Yeah, well, it's elbow grease, you know?
The beautiful spring day has brought dozens of visitors to the field. Kenny Brown and Jason Roop just made it back to town after watching a game in Pittsburgh, but their hearts are still at the corner.
We can't go somewhere else. and see someone else's home without still appreciating ours. You know?
A lot of people from out of town, you know, they'll ask, have you ever been to Tiger Stadium, or what's Comerica Park like? And you know, yeah, I've been to Tiger Stadium. You know, the city tore it down, and everybody says the same thing. That's a shame. Everybody, even in different cities, that's a shame, whether they've been here or not. And you know, and I couldn't say it any better. I mean, it's shameful what's happened here.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you got to demolish it and you got to put something up, but you got to pay homage to it. You're going to leave it an empty lot, and have volunteers come in to keep it up because the city won't do it, and no one's doing anything about it. And then, you know, the volunteers are being told they got to leave,
right?
Because they're trespass. I mean,
could have had a museum chronicling the history of the stadium.
Just like in the big leagues, when the grounds crew is finished, the players take the field. This corner, which started out at the end of the 19th century as a sandlot baseball field at the site of an old Haymarket, has become a sandlot once again.
There you go. I've been going to Tigers games since I was 5. It's awesome to come out here and play, and thank God. I mean, I was really, you know, it really hurt me when like they tore down the stadium, and like, you know, I really wish they would do something with it. But I'm glad that we're able to like come out here and keep things going and keep playing.
Okay, so these guys may not be at quite the same level as Hank Greenberg, Al Kaline, or Willie Horton. Or for that matter, even Ozzie Canseco, Bob Uecker, or Mario Mendoza. But these guys embody the spirit of baseball. They are playing baseball at the corner, helping keep alive the memories of all the greats, as well as all the sub-Mendoza line batters who played our national pastime at this spot. And this is one spot where all of the greats played, at least all of the American League greats, and a large number of National League and Negro League players as well. This field has been home to some of the most important events in baseball history. While it was still called Bennett Park, the Tigers hosted World Series games in 3 straight years, losing to the Cubs in 1907 and 1908, and losing to Honus Wagner and the Pittsburgh Pirates in 1909. In 1908, Frank Navin became the principal owner of the team. After the 1911 season, he tore down the wooden structure of Bennett Park and built a new concrete and steel stadium that held 23,000 fans. Navin Field was renovated and expanded several times through the years. Despite some talented teams and the great Ty Cobb, Tigers fans would have to wait until 1934 for another shot at a World Series title.
High in a blimp over the city of Detroit, we see another big crowd at Navin Field. It's the climax of the World Series, the final game.
The Cardinals featured 4 future Hall of Famers, including pitcher Dizzy Dean.
What are you looking at, Diz? I'm looking at it. Tell me around here that there's a bunch of tigers around here, and I can't see nothing but kittens. Take a look, Deputy.
The Tigers had 4 future Hall of Famers of their own, including player-manager Mickey Cochran.
The Detroit team is ready, all set and anxious to open what I think will probably be one of the most colorful series in World Series history. We're meeting a great ball club, and I hope that we can beat them.
The powerful Cardinals prevailed in 7 games, a painfully close call for Detroit fans as well as for the Tigers' notoriously frugal owner Frank Navin, who took the loss very hard. But the Tigers would win the American League pennant again the next year. Their opponent in the 1935 World Series was the Chicago Cubs. The Tigers led 3-2 going into Game 6 at the corner. The game was tied going into the 9th inning, and with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th, Goose Goslin singled to right, driving in Mickey Cochran for the winning run. Navin Field had never seen such a celebration. Frank Navin had waited 30 years to win the World Series, but the very next month, the Tigers' owner suffered a heart attack and died. His silent partner, industrialist Walter Briggs, bought the team from Navin's widow for $1 million. The new owner had big visions for the Tigers and for the corner. After the 1937 season, he renovated Navin Field and renamed it Briggs Stadium. Capacity increased from 36,000 to 53,000, and Briggs Stadium became the first baseball stadium with upper decks completely surrounding the field. The new owner also added a state-of-the-art underground sprinkler system, making it easier for the grounds crew to keep the field in top shape. The Tigers won the American League pennant in 1940, but lost to Cincinnati in the World Series. The war years were not easy for Detroit. All-star slugger Hank Greenberg was the first American League player drafted into the armed forces in 1940. He re-enlisted after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. Greenberg's military service kept him out of a Tigers uniform until late summer of 1945. In his first game back, he hit a home run. Greenberg would go on to lead the Tigers to another pennant win. The Tigers went on to beat the Cubs in 7 games, winning their second World Series title. In 1948, owner Walter Briggs added lights to the stadium. The first night game was played in June of that year. The imposing gray facade of Briggs Stadium is now just a memory. But as spring turns to summer, the Navin Field grounds crew keeps working at the corner. They refer to the site as Detroit's Field of Dreams. In the movie Field of Dreams, farmer Ray Kinsella hears a voice that tells him, "If you build it, he will come." Here at the corner, the grounds crew has realized that even if you tear it down, people will still come.
There are 4 generations of Tiger fans out there on the field. And it's a great thrill that this is still touches people's hearts.
Oh, so many memories and so much stuff you want to keep. You want to keep those memories, and you want to be able to bring your grandkids out here and tell them that this was once a great place for baseball. I brought her to the ballpark when she was just little. Yeah. Every game, every home game, we were here. My mom had her little portable radio. Well, I spent my whole childhood listening to baseball as you fell asleep. Staying late and listening to baseball on that little handheld radio and falling asleep. Yeah. When I was pregnant with him and couldn't sleep, my mom made me a couple CDs of old games with Ernie Harwell. It's my lullaby.
We need to get a drag rather than do this individually, but for the time being, this works.
I figure the sidewalk use is sprucing up. You get all kinds of random objects of garbage out on the field. You know, broken liquor bottles and White Castle wrappers to Little Caesars pizza boxes and even women's thongs. They've got women's thongs. Just someone's just, well, I'm done with this, and throw it inside the gate. Well, I come along and good thing I got my gloves on. Because I have pictures of that. If you want a picture of a woman's thong surrounded by broken liquor bottles, you come to the right place.
It's been a long time since I've been down here, so I thought, wow, to play on the infield, just catch, it's a big thrill.
So was this your first time down here?
Me? No.
Yeah. You come down here a lot?
I've come down here with my dad.
Cool.
Bring her down here because I had so many memories of coming down here with my dad. Just wanted to share the history with her and let her know that it's still alive, whether the stadium's here or not.
What do you think about your dad helping keep history alive?
I was telling you that I got to sing the national anthem 1992. It was May 29th.
You think you'd give me a few notes?
Sure. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
And once again, it's time to play ball at the corner. The teams are not organized. They just show up on Sundays and play pickup games.
This is the only place in America where you can come play ball, where Babe Ruth, Ted Williams, Cecil Fielder, all the great ones played here. Mark Fidrich pitched on the mound here.
Father's Day at the corner stirred up many memories of summer days and trips to the ballpark with Dad. When the grounds crew arrived, they found what appears to be a tribute to someone's dad, a Toledo Mud Hens baseball cap with a single rose. As they took care of the field, they would see just how important this place is for fathers, sons, and families.
Ron thought it'd be great to come on Father's Day and bring the family and be able to run the bases for the great ones to run.
For older generations, the love for this site is tangible. Even the children who were born long after the Tigers moved away can somehow capture the spirit as they follow in the footsteps of their elders.
We're cousins. We both lost our dads in the early 50s. And we're together here on Father's Day, and I said, let's go down to the ballpark. Maybe something magical will happen.
Yeah, it's pretty
sure
cool.
enough, it was something we'll never forget.
Just going and spending time with your dad when you're little is one of those places that you did it because they were as excited to go to the game as you were. They were little kids themselves, you know, when they were here.
We like to thank our dads in heaven got us together today and come down to Old Tiger Stadium, baby.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Dad.
Father's Day is the motivation. It's the impetus for getting us down here. My wife and kids, they want to take me out to lunch, and they are the ones that made me a father. So we came down and celebrated them as well as myself, and then enjoy the history here at Tiger Stadium at the corner and all the ghosts that go with it.
But it's not just about fathers and sons. Many couples come back to share memories about how the corner brought them together.
Touch it, safe.
So I live in Nashville, Tennessee now, so I hardly ever get here, and brought the family here today because I just want them to know what was here. I want them to somehow get a little taste of the amazing memories.
It was our first date, and I was telling the girls they wouldn't be here if it weren't for Tiger Stadium, because when Kurt and I went out for our very first date, it was in Tiger Stadium.
I grew up a Cardinals fan.
And I was a Detroit Tiger fan, and we didn't know each other, but we were rivals in the '68 World Series. So he was rooting for the Cardinals, I was rooting for the Tigers, and we wound up married.
Yeah. I met my wife, Tom's sister, in the center field bleachers, the last game of the '84 World Series.
All right, here's the story, man, about his
June 12th. June 12th, I'm not sure what year it was. Early 90s, I think the three Ripken brothers, or the two Ripken brothers with their dad being one of the coaches. Tigers are playing Baltimore.
He's busted on video, man.
Anyways,
don't tell your wife you don't
my
know
wife
that.
By flying a plane over the stadium, and it was very, very cool.
And even though the stadium is gone, this ball field at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull is still bringing couples together.
It's a great place for us. We love coming here.
Hopefully, we'll get married here. Don't run.
For Tom and Jennifer White, this field holds such a fond place in their hearts that they actually did have their wedding at the corner.
It'd be something that we'd always remember.
We were sitting in the Tiger seats in the basement when we came upon that.
The seats from the old stadium?
Yes.
Very cool.
We are assembled in the presence of God to unite Tom and Jennifer in marriage. Give the ring and repeat after me. Tom, with this ring, I pledge my love and life to you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. By the authority of God and the laws of this state, I declare that Tom and Jennifer are husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
And on this opening day of 2012, these newlyweds walked side by side to home.
I loved it. Loved every minute of it. Loved the history of it. I cried the day it came down. So, yeah, this is it's more emotional, I think, to be on the field than to be getting married.
This abandoned ballpark is so full of special memories that people actually exchange their wedding vows here. But weddings are not the only sacred activity at the park.
It's all somebody's ashes. Right here.
These are little bone fragments from somebody's ashes. There was a little thing, never forget, scrawled on here too. So I think somebody put somebody's ashes out here
and then scratch "Never Forget" into the mound.
This is not the first time they've found someone's ashes here, and it won't be the last.
Yeah, we just saw some more ashes over here. Somebody dumped somebody's ashes over here. People bring their loved ones here and leave them, you know. That's exactly what this stuff is. So God bless whoever that is. Glad you're here too. I'm gonna cut the lawn again, Cody, so you'll... And there's ashes right there too, Cody, right on the pitcher's mound. That's exactly what that is. And I know because my own mother and father were cremated, so sometime between Wednesday afternoon and now, someone's dumped ashes here and on the infield. And you know what? We love to see stuff like that. Absolutely. And you know what? Someday my ashes will be in the same place.
Longtime Tigers fan Catherine Darren wanted to be remembered this way. Catherine was born in Ireland in 1920, but married an American serviceman during World War II and moved to Detroit in 1946. Her mother-in-law took her to her first game at the corner, and she was hooked.
That was how it began for her, and I think the tie to the greenness of it, the fact that there's a field, that you're outside, that the game is slow, that you talk. You know, you get to know your mother-in-law.
Many years later, Catherine asked her children to sprinkle some of her ashes at the corner.
Just past second base on the way out to center field in Tiger Stadium. So it doesn't surprise me at all that she wanted to be in a field where people were doing fun things, you know, playing ball and hanging out. And every time I see a photo on Facebook of the Navin Field grounds crew, I don't get sad, and I don't always even remember, oh yeah, you know, there are some ashes there I'm acquainted with. It just makes me happy. It's like a happy place. And, you know, I think she'd be really happy.
It has become a spot for weddings and a final resting place. But can this baseball field truly be considered sacred ground?
This ground, it's sacred ground, no question about it. If you think about all the players that have played over the last 100 and some years, it's almost breathtaking to realize what type of grounds we're standing on right here with Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Mickey Mantle, people like Freehand, K-Line, Trammell, Gibson. I mean, we're missing probably 700 other people.
I really do feel in a non-religious way, it is sacred ground to me. Something happens to you when you're here. Something definitely happens to you when you're here. And call it what you want, but I had an experience when I was here last fall, and it was just amazing. Tingles, just tingles.
And this is where Detroit came together for many, many years. And so it kind of owns up to the fact that this is the place where, for a lot of people, this could be that sacred ground, that spot where they experience something greater than themselves.
Baseball stadiums have the essence of holiness, of sacredness, perhaps even godliness, because of our experiences there. It's not the same as the holy ground that we read about in the Bible, in the Torah, when Moses encounters God at the burning bush. These are places in which our American pastime takes place, and so we ascribe a certain sense of holiness to these places.
There's a saying of the Prophet, peace be with him, that جُعِلَتْ لِلْأَرْضُ مَسْجِدًا, that the whole earth is a cathedral. So if that is a perspective, that any place, as long as that place is not doesn't have filth or dirt lying around, then that could be sacred.
The ballparks where the community gathers. The ballparks where the community experiences what Emil Durkheim would call collective effervescence, which is kind of the roots of ritual. So all these things that put you in touch with different dimensions take place in a ballpark. In that sense, I think it's a sacred space.
Tiger Stadium was one of the oldest stadiums in baseball, and it certainly had its quirks. Obstructed view seats were plentiful. And there was a certain unique aroma that permeated the air. But the seats were very close to the action.
Everything was right on top of you. The fans, when they stomped their feet, you know, it felt like the stadium might fall down. But again, it was an advantage for the home team as far as just the fans being on top and how loud they got. And certainly, again, I feel it was a home field advantage.
And the diehards say going to a game at Comerica just isn't the same. Tiger Stadium felt more like home, like an old familiar friend.
So how do these seats compare?
they don't. They're much further away. They're much higher in the air and much further away from the action than they were at Tiger Stadium, that's for sure.
And the smell?
It's not the same. There's something about 80 years of beer and peanuts on the floor. It takes a long time to recapture that smell.
Like so many other fans in Detroit, became very attached to Tiger Stadium. It just seemed like a home away from home.
This is my second home. My parents always hated me for saying that, but this was my second home. And it's still my second home. Nothing beats a day at Tiger Stadium.
There's something that pulls us home. It's the reason we donate to our alma mater. It's the reason we go 20 miles out of our way to drive past the house where we grew up.
We need to be able to identify with certain places and feel at home in those places, or think that those places, as if those places know something about us, and really it's us knowing something about those places.
Some of it is right in the language itself. This, as Bart Giamatti said so beautiful in his book about baseball, baseball is a game in which you are rewarded for coming home again. The whole mythology of calling this home plate and then going on a journey, like the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell left us. You leave home and the effort is to battle all of the obstacles like Odysseus did when he left Ithaca and went off to fight in the Trojan War. And it took him, what, 20 years to come home again. We are playing this out in the game of baseball.
And for the Navin Field grounds crew, this is an epic journey. A weekly battle against the forces of nature to keep the grass cut and the dirt soft, and against unseen forces trying to evict them from the corner and sell this place they call home.
And even more, I found in my research into the Odyssey that the Odyssey and the Iliad, those great books by Homer, are based on this old Greek word called the Nostois, N-O-S-T-O-I. And the Nostois were the stories that the sailors told about the effort it took for them to come home after their expeditions. So the word nostalgia means the pain of the story of coming home again. When someone says baseball is such a nostalgic sport, you know what? They are right on the most profound imaginable level.
This epic story has drawn a lot of media attention. In addition to ESPN the magazine, National Public Radio has done a feature story about the grounds crew. So has the New York Times. So has Preservation Magazine. Even an Australian TV crew has come to the corner to cover these nostalgic baseball fans in their quest to return home. All the Detroit media outlets have been here as well.
I like to highlight some of the positive things that are going on in the city, and I think this has such importance to so many people, and I think it's a great thing that this group here is trying to preserve this and do everything they can so this can be enjoyed by generations to come.
But they're not in it for the publicity, and they're definitely not in it for the money. Over the last 3.5 seasons, Tom has spent several $1,000s of his own money on gas, lawnmower repairs, and even a new riding mower.
Who's gassing the lawnmower and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, here. I mean, yeah, I'll donate too. What I spent on beer in this place.
People don't usually chip in like that for gas, do they?
Well, people do offer, and I usually don't take it, but what the hell. I'll take a few bucks. It's getting to be, it is expensive.
Tom is selfless when it comes to this kind of thing. And really, when he first mentioned he was going to do this, he called me and said, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I said, well, I'll support you, but I never thought he would be as successful as he's been and is driven. It's the kind of thing that if you do it week after week after week, you can get tired. And he doesn't get frustrated. He just keeps coming. And it really is. It's the love of the place that keeps him coming.
And he doesn't know where it's going to go. He just keeps doing it every Sunday while we still can, because he says, this is a unique opportunity. We never know when it's going to end or if we're going to be able to come back here one day. They might just sell it from out from underneath. The city might just decide, well, we want to put something up here, and then it'll be all gone. But you know what won't be gone is the memories that thousands of people have been able to make over the last 3 summers that we've been down here.
The second meeting with city officials was postponed for another 2 weeks, then postponed indefinitely. But about this time, another Tiger Stadium fan came forward with a new proposal to bring baseball back to the corner. The plan would bring back the pre-1912 Bennett Park configuration and allow baseball games to be played. It would also capitalize on tourism and history.
The idea of rebuilding Bennett Park is one that hasn't been done in any other city in the United States. There are plaques, commemorating various sites where there was a 19th century ballpark, but in most cases it would be impossible to build on the site because it's already been redeveloped. Well, here we have a site that's historically significant, that's open. Why not do it? I think it could be a worthy business enterprise, and I think it would be a legitimate attraction, not just for baseball fans locally, but nationally.
Baseball tourism has been a huge success for the tiny town of Dyersville, Iowa. And it's all because of the hit movie Field of Dreams. Shoeless Joe Jackson and the Chicago White Sox never really played on this field. But that doesn't matter. People still come.
About 65,000 tourists come a season, that's April through November. And people come from all over the world, including that international market, which has been tremendous for our community. Because there's so many people that have come back to the Field of Dreams. A lot of the grandma and grandpa have brought them when they were young, and now that they're grown up and have their own kids, they want to come back to the Field of Dreams and have that same catch or walk through the corn, just as what they did when they were a child.
If a fictional story about baseball can draw that many people to a tiny town in Iowa, why wouldn't real baseball history draw even more people to the corner? With world-class museums, restaurants, sports teams, and even casinos, Detroit has a lot to offer. In fact, even with no promotion, no souvenir shops, and no support from the city, people still come back to the corner, as if drawn by some irresistible longing to connect with their roots, as if something inside them is pulling them home.
In just the last month, I've seen people have come out here to the field from Chicago, from Alabama. One guy came out who lives in Norway. He's a big Tiger fan. He follows them from Europe, so it's really cool. That's why we're out here, because all these great people come down here to play ball. They really appreciate what we're doing.
And I heard about the story on the radio about the city not wanting these people to do it, so I figured I'd show up here to see what was going on. The spirit of baseball is alive when you see people just out here doing a pickup game and taking the time to mow the grass and stuff. There's passion there, there's loyalty, it's amazing.
It's the history standing over everything, You think of certain, you're going back to Ty Cobb Day. It's just more than history.
But just sitting in that ballpark and you think about all the great players, this is where they were. Yep. So just being right here where greatness happened so many times.
I currently live in North Carolina, and I came to the last game on September 27th, 1999. And so it's nice to see the field still in place.
And it was like a religious experience. I just couldn't believe I could be standing in the same places that all these guys played. Second base and shortstop with Trammell and Whitaker out by the pole. Couldn't believe how shallow right field was.
Yeah, 325.
Yeah, like right over there is where Lou Gehrig's streak ended.
That's right there. Right there. He wasn't in the lineup that day.
Yeah. So it's one of my boys to see this.
I want to stand where the pitching man because I want to stand where Babe Ruth once had stand.
Just looked at. All right, Shane. Throwing off the mound to Chris.
Right. I came back to see what it looked like now. The first time I ever came up here was, I think it was April 29th. I think it was a game against the Baltimore Orioles. We drove up from Clemson, a friend of mine from down there, and I did. And I wanted to see the park before it got torn down. I don't know what drew me to want to come up here. And I loved it so much, I went back to Clemson, worked, and I wanted to come back up and experience it again. So I drove up by myself. after I came here in '99, I kind of set a personal goal that I wanted to see a game in every ballpark. And I accomplished doing that, all of them except Comerica. So it kind of, I never meant for it to be this way, but it's kind of the end of what began here in '99.
Riding my bicycle to all 30 Major League ballparks. You know, I've seen some cool stuff along the way, some cool stadiums. You know, what's going on here is pretty cool that this group of guys is trying to preserve what was once, you know, considered sacred ground to them. Countless players have stood in that same batting box. I've hit a ball with a wooden bat just like they did. That's easier than it looks.
You know, I moved away from Detroit about 6 years ago, and this is just one of the places that I make a pilgrimage to every time I come into town.
There have been a lot of Chicago White Sox fans out here on the field this weekend with the White Sox being in town. Yeah. I know a lot of them wish probably they still had their field, their old Comiskey Park field at least, but they turned it into a parking lot. So, I mean, we lost our stadium, but at least we still have the baseball field. We have something.
Charlie Gehringer, Norm Cash, Don Wirt. It's sacred ground. It's like a pilgrimage. It's following in the footsteps of somebody you admire. Jesus and W.B. Yeats, Al Kaline.
Sacred ground, pilgrimage, even holy relics. What is it with all the religious language that seems to be so associated with baseball?
Baseball and religion are intertwined. We play in green cathedrals, we worship our idols, you know, we elevate the best of our players to something bordering sainthood, and if they fall short by gambling on the game, we ban them. You know, we send them off to purgatory forever. They can never make it back.
Whenever people have a special connection with a place, whether it's Jewish people and Jerusalem, whether it's Muslims and Mecca, whether it's Christians in the same places throughout the old city of Jerusalem that Jesus once walked, we like to keep a connection. We like to take a memento.
I got my rocks for the second time. Can't come without taking pieces of it.
Souvenirs.
It's going in my office.
Yeah, I got stuff. I got a bunch of
right
stuff last year.
Right up there.
It's a piece of, I guess it's brick that I found out in the outfield, and I have no idea what it was for, but it's from the site, so I'm going to take it home and put it with my collection.
The other pilgrim gesture throughout human history is to leave something behind. In Ireland, you might leave a white flag with prayers on it in a sacred bush near a holy well. You're leaving your prayers as a gesture of honor to something holy or important that happened here. So today, what do we find while we're playing catch, hitting fungos, is a ball signed by some guy September 27th. So it's just a few days ago. It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 guys came out here. They believed that what they were doing was really cool. They all signed the baseball and they left it behind for the next guys.
Whether it was Navin Field in 1936 or Tiger Stadium in 1999, rain has always been a problem for the grounds crew.
When we had these tremendous thunderstorms, that oftentimes that the water went down into the dugout. Well, that water would flood down there. So sometimes, and this happened a handful of times in my career, that the game, the storm had ended, ready to play the ball game, the tunnel was still flooded. So we'd have to go out through the stands to get to the dugout.
Today, there are no tarps to roll out at the corner, and heavy rains cause serious erosion.
Last thing I want is anybody to trip and fall in one of these ruts, so we're going to fill in along here. You can see the way it's just, nothing we can do. It's Mother Nature, you know. When it rains as hard as it did, we get the erosion from the first and the third base side because the field's higher than everything else and everything drains this way. Just going to dig it back up and throw it back where it belongs.
It's not the same as having a full-time grounds crew with high-tech water and drainage systems. But for a bunch of volunteers who work one day a week, they do a great job making the field playable and making it look good.
Every Sunday's a good day here. Just there's just a good feeling when you walk off the field and it looks a little better, a little more like a baseball field than it did before.
Some days, Tom makes several trips to the field, bringing all 3 of his mowers. And some days they get unexpected help from supporters who can't make it every week.
Mike Foster. I'm with
Mike.
Western High School.
Oh yeah, you know, I remember you. You're the coach. You're the coach. Yeah, I remember you. I remember you.
Good to
yeah,
see you.
I'm glad you came out.
Just tell me what I can do.
Oh, hey, if you want to push one of these,
Sure.
You want to do the infield?
That's fine.
Yeah, you want to push one around the infield, do little circles around the mound, and do the whole thing?
I can do that.
Yeah. All right, see you guys in a bit.
To be able to do this, man, is huge. It's just awesome. So just give back a little bit, you know, to the game and to the spot that gave a lot to you. Yeah. So it's sweet.
Naturally, the more workers, the more work they can do. By the end of this day, working through a light rain, the field is looking really good. But the rough conditions on the field have taken a toll on the equipment, especially in the tall weeds where the stands used to be.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be using this one today. 2 mowers today, both had belt issues. One of them bust and the other one's just loose, but that mower might be done, the one that's loose on.
So that's the only functioning mower right now?
Yeah, we started out today with 4 riding mowers. We had some casualties. We're just down to 1.
How many of those do you have to take back?
3.
Today is August 14th. It's a special day for Byron and Dave. It would have been the 57th birthday of their favorite tiger, Mark the Bird Fidrich.
The last game at Tiger Stadium, September 27th of 1999. At the end of the game, I don't know, about maybe 100 or more former Tigers came out onto the field from the center field tunnel. But the first guy out to lead all the old Tigers was Mark the Bird Fidrich. He ran all the way out to the pitcher's mound, and he got down on one knee and pulled a Ziploc baggie out of his back pocket, scooped up some dirt for old time's sake, put it in the Ziploc baggie, and then he waited for everybody else to come out.
For Mark's 57th birthday.
Coming in out of the bullpen. We'll go to the Byron Hatch.
It's a special Navin Field tribute as they retrace the steps of a player who touched their lives. A brilliant young pitcher whose career was cut short by injuries and whose life was taken tragically in a freak accident at the age of 54.
This one's for you on your 57th birthday, buddy. I miss you.
Let's eat some cake.
Actually, Dave and I were fortunate enough to be at Mark's funeral. And one of the cool things that they did when we left the church that day was sing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which Jessica planned and the family planned. They said that's what Mark would want. So that's what I'd like to do today if we can.
Hold that cake so we can see it, man. All right, do it. All right.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back. Well, it's root for the Tigers. If they don't win, it's a shame. Or it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the ball game. Yay! Happy birthday, Mark.
Happy birthday, Bird.
While the grounds crew is working hard to make the field playable, other people are working behind the scenes to help them out. Some people at Chevrolet had read Dave Fleming's article in ESPN the magazine and decided to get involved.
It makes me think that there's magic. There's still magic at the corner, right? I just wrote a story about going back and about what the Navin field grounds crew had been able to do. And at the end, because from the refurbished pitcher's mound, you can see the top of the Renaissance Center and the big blue GM logo. And so I challenged GM or some other sort of, Detroit corporate citizen to kind of step up and save this field. And to my incredible surprise, they responded, almost immediately with, "We're gonna help save it."
At long last, it looked like the hard work and dedication of the Navin Field grounds crew had finally paid off. The corner would now be preserved as a permanent place for baseball. But it wasn't to be.
It seemed like a no-brainer. You've got Detroit's biggest and best corporate citizen saying, "We're inspired by what these people have done. We want to help out and make it a permanent park. Let us roll up our sleeves and tell us where we can spend our money and how we can make this happen." And literally Detroit said, drop dead.
No one could believe it. How could the city say no? Social media and the news media were all over the story.
Chevrolet offers to fix up the baseball diamond at the old Tiger Stadium, right? So when the offer is made, then what does the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation do? They reject it. Does anyone know why they rejected that offer?
Many errors have been committed on this playing field since 1896, but few can compare with the blunder by the DEGC to say no to an offer by Chevrolet to maintain the baseball field.
The president of the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation would not be interviewed for this film, but he was quoted in several media outlets as saying the site is reserved for a comprehensive development that will bring substantial investment and new economic activity. The DEGC fears any baseball-related activities will scare away potential investors.
They turned it into a garbage dump, and then when somebody volunteered to turn it back into a palace, they said no thanks. So it's inexplicable and it's inexcusable, and it's the kind of thing that just makes you want to give up hope.
It was a bitter disappointment, but the grounds crew was back at work that Sunday doing what they do best.
We're not sure what the future is going to be here at the ball field, but we're going to continue to come down every Sunday, and if it's not Chevrolet, it's going to be the Naven Field grounds crew.
We just keep showing up here every Sunday, that's all I know, until further notice.
With all the history and all the personal connections, it's not hard to see how Detroiters can care so much about this spot. But why is it so important for a city to preserve its historic sites?
A city is the entity that embodies the concept of settlement. So permanence, things that stay, versus the nomadic way of being where you have these shelters that can be built and unbuilt and moved, and they're not place specific. A city is there, and so there is this concept of permanence that is really important. So history speaks to that concept.
This isn't about a bunch of middle-aged white guys trying to recapture their youth, hang on to the past. It's about historic preservation. And this is what all great American cities do. This is what all great cities in the world do.
People will tend to love and be devoted to and take care of places in which memory is actually preserved. Where it is destroyed, as it is in wartime, people tend to lose memory, they tend to want to forget, and they tend to be very violent about the place they live in. There's a tremendous amount of graffiti, or buildings are burned down. Does this sound familiar? This is what's happened in Detroit since the 1950s.
Things grow and change, but there's always a balance between what changes and what stays. If things change too much, it really becomes something else. It's no more the city we had before.
Every time you knock down your history without putting something up that's equivalent, and that could be a plaque, it could be a series of films, but unless that memory is preserved, people will not be devoted to the place they live.
The members of the grounds crew are certainly devoted to their city and to their team. By maintaining this site, they're helping to preserve many of Detroit's most important memories. There were some lean years for the Tigers after they won the World Series in 1945. They would miss the postseason for the next 22 straight years. In 1961, broadcasting magnate John Fetzer became the sole owner of the team. The Briggs name was removed, and the ballpark at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull became known as Tiger Stadium. The team had some great players who kept the fans excited. Al Kaline joined the team in 1953. In the 1960s, Norm Cash and Willie Horton also joined the roster. In July of 1967, Detroit was rocked by 5 days of rioting. 43 people died, more than 680 were injured, 2,000 buildings were destroyed. But order was not restored until Army and National Guard troops rolled in. The scars of 1967 are still visible today. Some say Detroit has never fully recovered. But many people say the Tigers were a stabilizing force that helped bring healing to the city.
In 1968, most of us went to schools, we went to playgrounds, we went to YMCAs, we spoke at every, I think, appearance we could speak at in 1968, trying to calm the city, trying to keep it calm. But the greatest thing, we were winning.
Just 1 year after the rioting, the city rallied around the Tigers as they made a magical run to the pennant.
The night we won the pennant was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. You know, remember, 42 people had just died a year before, and all of a sudden, you got black, you got white, you got green, you got yellow, whatever you are, it was hugs and kisses from everybody that you met for the next 3, 4, 5 days.
The Tigers played the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series, beating them in 7 games and bringing home a championship to the Motor City.
That was some celebration. That was some time in this town. It was, everybody was wonderful. And I think that ball club carried for a number of years until things started to go south again eventually. But for those 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I thought it was just the greatest celebration I'd ever seen.
After the 1983 season, Domino's Pizza founder Tom Monahan bought the team from longtime owner John Fetzer. The next year, the Tigers completed a storybook season. Led by manager Sparky Anderson, the team started the year with an astonishing 35-5 record and cruised to a World Series victory over the San Diego Padres.
We clinched the division at home against the Brewers. We beat the Royals in the playoffs, and then we clinched the World Championship against the Padres at home. So we had 3 celebrations, and not that you're not going to celebrate on the road. To have it at home, in front of your home folks, hometown fans, I mean, to me that was just a little extra, you know, icing on the cake, so to speak, and something I'll never forget.
As a player, my greatest memories is certainly the '84 championship season. We won the World Series, and just how many people were there, and then the celebration after was unreal, and of course the pretty cool parade after that.
Joe Michnook was a clubhouse security guard for the Tigers at the time. He even got to ride with Sparky Anderson in the victory parade.
Man, it was like, if you're a Tiger fan like I am and always have been since I was a little kid, it was a dream come true for me to be the Tigers locker room security guard, to, you know, rub elbows with all the players that, you know, I'd come to really admire, and to be right there in the middle of all that, man, is like, I mean, I was the luckiest guy in Detroit.
The era of free agency had begun, and unlike previous owner John Fetzer, new owner Tom Monahan was willing to spend. But the Tigers would need more revenue to pay for bigger salaries. When Monahan and the Tigers started making rumblings about a new stadium, the community took action. The Tiger Stadium Fan Club was formed in 1987. Their goals were twofold. They wanted to preserve the historic stadium, and they wanted to prevent public financing of a new stadium. In 1992, Tom Monahan sold the team to Mike Ilitch, the founder of Little Caesars Pizza. The new owner wanted a new stadium that would help boost his bottom line and make the team more competitive. Despite their efforts and several significant victories, the Tiger Stadium Fan Club couldn't stop the new owner and the city of Detroit from building a new stadium downtown. The Tigers played their last season at the corner in 1999.
I noticed people walking around the ballpark before it opened with their hands touching the tiled exterior wall of Tiger Stadium. And what it reminded me of was a funeral. People will kiss the forehead of the loved one in the casket. Sometimes they'll touch the person's hand or put their hand on the person's heart. And it was this very powerful moment that I witnessed. And it really wasn't just the last game. It was happening throughout that season. People were on pilgrimages, coming back to the ballpark to say goodbye to it.
So I flew back to Detroit with my son, 1999. He was 3 years old, and we bumped into people from all over the world. And it was a time to tell stories. And why are you here? When was your first game? And it was enormously moving.
The Tigers played their final game at the corner on August 27, 1999. It was a night to celebrate history. It was also a night of deep sorrow.
I had my camera and with me, and I put it down, and I'm just bawling like a little kid. And I'm just filming this, and I see all these men crying. People just, you know, they couldn't believe it's over. People were not moving up there. So I just put my camera down, and I let it film me crying too. And I swear to you, I've looked at that tape, but I've never looked at the tape of the final game. I cannot watch it. Breaks my heart. Two things break. I was telling somebody today. Two things make me say the word damn. When I think about my father's death 2 years ago, and when I think about this.
You were saying goodbye to a place that had been a part of your life for a long time. The emotion in the air, the flash bulbs going off when Ernie Harwell was calling that last half inning. And he said, I'm going to put the game aside just for a minute and say goodbye to Tiger Stadium. And the way he did it, so beautifully, so simply, and yet so beautifully, capturing a lot of the emotions we were all feeling. It's sad that it's not still standing, at least some portion of it, but I think for so many people, it is still very much standing in our minds, and we can picture it very clearly.
It was the end of an era, but it wasn't the end of the stadium, at least not yet. After the Tigers moved downtown, Tiger Stadium stood forlorn and empty for nearly a decade. But it wasn't forgotten. Numerous groups devised plans to save the building, but the city rejected them all. Demolition began in June of 2008. Despite repeated efforts to save a portion of the stadium and turn it into a museum, the city completed the demolition in September of 2009. It's been a great season for baseball in Detroit. And other than that first day in April, the police haven't bothered them at all. But as Justin Verlander and the Tigers are getting ready for the playoffs, the city throws another curveball to the Navin Field grounds crew.
Somebody put a lock on this sucker. Yeah, it wasn't locked yesterday. My wife and I walked all around the park. There were guys playing baseball, and we just had a good time. Took pictures, people were out here, and then today we find that it's locked.
But somehow, when the guys from the grounds crew arrive, the locks and the signs are gone.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the city took them down. Maybe the wind blew them down. Maybe some community members didn't like them. I don't know. It's pretty crazy, though.
The Corktown winds blew really hard, man. The wind was blowing so hard that I saw those signs and they just fell down.
As the Tigers faced the Yankees in the playoffs, the grounds crew gathered at Nemo's. After the baseball season, the grounds crew keeps going. As long as the grass is growing and litter keeps blowing across the street, they'll be at the corner. To some, they're seen as folk heroes. They were invited to the St. Patrick's Day Parade, where they proudly marched past their beloved field.
Now what do we have here? The Navin Field grounds crew. This is the old ballpark.
They even had a police escort. As their labor of love carries over into the 2012 season, they get an unexpected surprise from Rashida Tlaib, the state representative from Southwest Detroit.
Let it be known that it is with great honor that we celebrate and show appreciation for the tremendous commitment of the Navin Field grounds crew. We commend their commitment, love, and effort for creating and maintaining one of our most valuable assets in our great city of Detroit. We recognize their genuine love of history, baseball, and their work to bring strength to the human spirit.
You know, I've never been officially recognized for anything like that. I think it's a real honor for everyone on the grounds crew.
I don't think I've ever been part of a group that's, more dedicated to a goal, not necessarily looking for, accolades for what they're doing. So I think it's a big step, nice step. It's better than having the police here asking us to leave. So.
In addition to likes on their Facebook page, the greatest reward for the grounds crew is seeing the joy on the faces of the people who come. These guys play with old-time rules from the 1860s, and they play with no gloves.
Today was just a great experience for all of us. We had a lot of fun bringing those guys in to play with us and seeing their faces and enjoying, the fruits of their labor that they, by coming out every weekend and maintaining a field so it's playable it's a really good feeling.
This is the finest spectacle I've seen here on the corner since the last game at Tiger Stadium. Look at this. The city says this site isn't zoned for baseball and that it wasn't meant for baseball. I beg to differ.
Over the last 3 years, they've made hundreds of friends who appreciate what they're doing and come to share the history. Some of the visitors have even become regular members of the grounds crew. As they continue their 4th year at the corner, no one is sure just how this game will end.
We have no idea what's going to happen here. Every time I come down here, I think this could be the last time that I'm able to come on the field. So I think we have a unique opportunity here. I just want to, take advantage of it while we can.
This wouldn't be possible without the Navin Field grounds crew. They cut the ground.
These guys, I hope they keep this up for forever.
I appreciate what those guys are doing. I appreciate where they're coming from, what motivates them. I'm thankful for it.
Very, very fortunate to live my dream there and to have had a history there, and to have these guys do that. I'm going to go by there when I go back to Detroit next year.
I think this is awesome. This is great. This really shows what Detroiters can actually do when we just come together.
But what about the city of Detroit and the DEGC? Numerous proposals for the field have been put forward. Major League Baseball's Urban Youth Academy has even expressed a desire to renovate the field and use it as a place to teach baseball to inner-city kids. But so far, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation has rejected every idea. Will the city kick them off the field for good? Will a developer put up a warehouse or a retail store? Or will this historic, sacred site be preserved for future generations?
This is a spot that means a whole lot to a whole lot of people. Nothing is harmed. The city is not damaged by that ballpark existing.
Because this is hallowed ground. It has nothing to do with real estate. And if someone wants to call this real estate and put in a big box store, it would be the equivalent of the French knocking down Chartres Cathedral because they want to put up what they call a target, which is their word for a target.
The city of Detroit is resilient. It has overcome many challenges over the decades and faces many more. But the inscription on the city's seal, written after a terrible fire in 1805, offers words of encouragement. Translated from Latin, it says, "We hope for better things. From the ashes it will rise." Perhaps this great city will rise again as it celebrates its heritage. Another struggling city, Cleveland, is hoping to revitalize an entire neighborhood by remembering its baseball roots. The city is rebuilding League Park, the field that was home of the Cleveland Indians until 1946. In New York, where real estate is at a premium, the city could have put up a parking lot when Yankee Stadium was demolished. Instead, they built Heritage Field, where people can both play ball and celebrate their proud past. Baseball history has proven to be successful in other places. Perhaps the city of Detroit will take notice. In the meantime, the Navin Field grounds crew will continue to take care of Detroit's historic baseball home.
I hope we just continue to do what we're doing here. I'm happy with the way it is. I'd love to see this field preserved in some kind of way.
For me, the longer that nothing happens, the better, because I'd like to see the field stay just the way it is with the people who really care about it maintaining it. I wish this would go on forever.